1-0 to the Arsenal. Has a great ring to it on a day like today where 3 points was all that mattered. The fourth consecutive Premier League game that we have upgraded the result from last season. Of course, it was a draw 2-2 last season. Now it is 3 points in the bag, and we're going to talk about it. Before we do, if I could ask you to subscribe, we are on the way, and we are getting very close now to 25,000 subscribers. If you'd like the video as well and do the hype thing down in the comments, I would be very grateful, because today Arsenal have gone 4 points clear at the top of the Premier League, and we had to do it ugly. Let's be real, it wasn't the most exciting game. At times, the atmosphere at the Emirates was tempered. Tempered is probably the word I would use. You know, Crystal Palace made it really difficult. And we'll talk about how they did that and how we overcame it, which is the most important thing. So let's get into it. You know, without further ado, this was the Arsenal lineup. Raya in goal, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, Calafiori, Zubimendi, Rice, Saka, Eze, Trossard, and Victor Gyökeres. And the only one I think really that people perhaps questioned was Trossard starting ahead of Martinelli. Many thought, including myself, that Martinelli had done enough to warrant a start. But outside of that, Gabriel and Saka had been injury doubts going into the game. And perhaps Saka being taken off after 66 minutes, having not had his most prolific game, was partially down to that. Gabriel did the full 90, and we'll talk about what an absolute monster he is. But it was a difficult game. It was a tough game, right, in terms of how compact and difficult to break down Crystal Palace were. They came with a plan, and realistically, right, Crystal Palace's plan was the same plan that basically everyone that comes to the Emirates has. Lock Arsenal out for as long as you possibly can. Sit in either a 4-5-1 or a 5-4-1. That was the plan. They probably did it the best I've seen anyone do it. In terms of how, at times, we were completely lost of ideas in terms of breaking it down. And it very nearly a couple of times played into their hands. There was one passage of play, right, where, I mean, we had the ball for ages and we got absolutely nowhere with it. And it was just knocking it around. And you know, it was difficult to find any way of breaking through. And then you lose a bit of concentration. I think it was Zubimendi trying to play it out to Calafiori, and Ismail Assar nips in and wins the ball. And suddenly they've got a really dangerous attack. And so that was their game plan, right? And it was working. It was working really well in the first half. I mean, if you look, this is the first half statistics. Let me just bring that back up. You know, 0.11 XG to 0.08 XG in the first half. We had 2 shots on target. Ultimately, one of those was the goal that Eze scores, which apparently was the 0.05 XG attempt. And it was a great finish from him. But that goes to show how difficult it had been. And, you know, at halftime, you go into the halftime break 1-0 up, and you're thinking, I'll take that. I'll take that. Because we probably, on the balance of play, didn't deserve to be in the lead. And after that, I was a lot more settled. After we'd gone 1-0 up, I felt Crystal Palace would struggle to break us down. Because even if you watched the midweek against Larnaca, right, 5th in the Cypriot League, Crystal Palace, when you're sat deep, struggle. And so, for me, they were always the biggest threat at 0-0. And the longer it was 0-0, and the more we had to try and commit men forward to try and break them open, that was when it was going to get dangerous. And so, for that goal to come when it did, I think was so important for us. And that is where I've got to credit Eze. Because, you know, people will talk about Eze today, and they have done in games like the Fulham game, where playing in midfield, he has struggled to dictate the play in the way that Martin Odegaard would, right? And at times he doesn't know whether to really come short, which he doesn't do often, because I don't think that's, you know, that takes him out of the position where he can be most impactful, or to stay further up the field. But the problem is when he isn't dropping in, no one is, right? And so we were struggling to break through that midfield line of Crystal Palace. We were struggling to get from the back line and Zubimendi into the front line and Eze. He will learn. He will adapt, right? This is not the sort of game that he was used to at Crystal Palace. He was used to receiving the ball, and at most it would be the back 4 ahead of him, whereas now it's not. So it will take time. I have no doubt about it. But the important thing is moments. That's the sort of thing that he's been brought in for, right? Can you create moments? Can you take moments? And he took the moment today. It was the first, possibly second set piece that we got, and the ball comes to him, and it's a really awkward finish. He has to pull out that sort of scissor kick, and he did it. And one thing that I'm really impressed with when I watch Eze is how largely every time he gets a shot off, he connects with it really well, and it's a shot on target. There was one that he attempted from longer range, and it got blocked, and it went nowhere. But it was another one we thought, God, he's hit that so well, and that is going to be important for us. So we take the 1-0 lead into halftime, like I said, and the important thing then was, how do you hold on to it? And going into the second half, Palace really didn't create much more. And I think that is a testament to us. If anything, we should have probably doubled the lead. Gabriel, hit the crossbar, and then Rice on the follow-up, and then someone else on the follow-up after that, and then Saka curled one from outside the box just wide. And we should have probably, doubled it and made it 2-0. We didn't, but we really gave up virtually nothing at the other end. We conceded one shot on target. By the way, that shot on target, how's this for a stat? Sorry, I wasn't even showing it. The whole time I wasn't even showing you there. One shot on target. That's the only shot on target we conceded in the Premier League this month. And we're now done in Premier League games for this month. I think that's amazing. If you conceded one goal in a month, you'd be like, whoa. We conceded one shot on target in the Premier League this month. Like, the defense that we currently have means that you can afford to go 1-0 up and rely on your defense, and not just the starting back four, but the players that are coming off the bench to see you through games. And it's so important. And look, people can mock it, and people can say whatever they want. Frankly speaking, I couldn't care less. I mean, genuinely, it baffles me. People in my comments, but do you enjoy watching Arsenal do this? Let me think. Do I enjoy watching Liverpool flounder and lose 3-2 to Brentford whilst my team wins and goes 4 points clear, or does it upset me that at times it can be a little bit unattractive to watch? Let me think about that. Well, I think I do. I think I do enjoy it. And so, yeah, look, defensively, rock solid, go 1-0 up, see out the game. And I've said this before. This wasn't it was a set piece goal, right? But it wasn't like a cross header goal. But still, I would take a 1-0 set piece win every day of the goddamn week. If we win every game from now until the end of the season, 1-0 with a set piece goal, I will, truthfully, I'll laugh. I will chuckle away as people get very, very angry at how Arsenal are operating, because you look, for example, at the way that Liverpool lost against Crystal Palace this season. That is not what I want my team to be. And if you asked Liverpool fans now, what would you rather? I think they'd rather be Arsenal right now. And also, and we'll get onto it in a second, I didn't watch the game, obviously, because it was at the same time as the Arsenal game and I was there, but Man City created less XG against Villa today than we did against Palace. So even when people say, you're not creating, every big team at the moment is struggling to create major chances, because the way the Premier League has gone means that 95% of teams in the league are capable of setting up in a way that is very, very difficult to break down. And Arteta saw this coming. And he said, and he planned to use set pieces to our advantage, because set pieces are not something that a low block can stop. That fundamentally is the difference. And so, I'm more than happy for us to continue doing this. In terms of players and how they performed, Raya, I thought, was comfortable again. Didn't really have to make a save. Jurriën Timber. He's so good. He is so dependable. It is unbelievable. Did you see that moment in the first half? 4 men around him, and he rolls one and then he bodies another, and he's bouncing sort of between them. He just holds onto the ball, eventually wins the foul. It's remarkable. Saliba was fine. I actually want to see a bit more. Do you know what? I want to see a little bit more from Saliba on the ball. Hopefully the injury is nothing major. I don't know what it was, to be honest. Arteta kind of vaguely commented on it, but it doesn't sound like anything major. But I'd like him to be a little bit more ambitious. There were times in that first half where we were knocking it sideways and backwards and not really going anywhere. I think you could maybe you could maybe carry it. Maybe just carry it, or maybe try and clip a ball over. But look, good performance. Gabriel, what a warrior. What a warrior. He was an injury doubt for today. It just puts everything on the line. There was that moment where it looked like he got winded when, from where I was at, we cheered. We thought we'd scored from that corner. It turned out it wasn't the ball hitting the back of the net. It was Big Gabby. But yeah, just fighting through it, and just, Mateta is such a tough customer to deal with physically, and Gabriel matched him throughout the game. Calafiori, I thought another really strong performance from him. I think today was a difficult game for Calafiori because the way that Palace set up with Munoz so high and so wide, and so brave in the fact that he will just stay there no matter what, Calafiori didn't really have any sort of opportunity to drift in the way that he would normally try. But defensively, I thought it was a really good game from him. Zubimendi and Rice, excellent once again. Zubimendi, I think he's so crucial to the way that we're playing at the moment. Declan Rice, the ground that he was covering a couple of times, it looks like they're on the break with Ismail Assar, and suddenly this galloping Declan Rice catches up with him, wins the ball back. Phenomenal. Saka, really one of his quieter games today, I thought. The way that they locked him down. I mean, you see that moment with Jurdy and Timber with 4 men around him. That was how that side of the pitch was the whole time. And then he came off, 66 minutes gone. And in fairness, and it's a credit to Trossard, when that substitution happened, Martinelli comes on for Bukayo Saka. The vast majority of the time, in that sort of situation, if I saw Martinelli coming on for Saka and not Trossard, I'd be going, what are you doing? I thought that was the right decision. I thought that was the right substitution. And so credit to Trossard and credit to Mikel Arteta for getting that right. We needed that energy, I felt, from Martinelli. And hopefully he's not injured. It seemed like he may have done something muscular right at the end of the game. He ended up limping down the tunnel, which we could really do without that, just in terms of, the number of players that are out injured from our attacking depth. You still think even today we only had Nwaneri and Martinelli on the bench. Dalman could come in, of course, but still, you'd rather have Martinelli. Eze, like I said, there were moments from him again. There are moments where I want to see him more involved in the game. There are a couple of moments where he gets a bit sloppy. I feel like he can lose concentration a little bit, and that is something that, generally speaking, within this squad, it's so important that everyone is switched on constantly. But he gets the goal, the all-important goal. That is what you want from him. Trossard, like I said, the relationship I think him and Calafiori have down that left-hand side, I think is really good. Actually, the relationship as well with Gyökeres and Trossard and Calafiori, I think has been really good. And Victor Gyökeres, again, look, he'll get stick again today. He will, because sure, there were a couple of moments where maybe there's a half chance and the ball's bouncing and he's trying to get it under control, but I'm still impressed with the constant running, the constant battling, the constant stretching the game. I appreciate it. And Lacroix, by the way, I heard someone stood next to me kind of criticizing Gyökeres for not outpacing Lacroix. Obviously, if you're a FIFA player, you'll know that Lacroix is one of the quickest centre-backs that you will come across. So, look, it was a tough game for him again, but he's doing, the minimum that you would expect in terms of being a constant outlet and constantly working. So credit to him. For Palace, the only thing I would say about them is that once they went 1-0 down, I felt like they didn't push us enough. I felt like they could have been more ambitious. They were still not willing to overcommit even at 1-0 down, which was why we never made it 2. I felt they could have done that. But equally, look, Arteta and Arsenal keeping that side out and stopping them from scoring is really impressive. And then in terms of the subs, Mosquera, I think this is so impressive to come on with, the second half to play at 1-0, where you've got Mateta, who is a really tough customer, and to just slot straight in. Like, he didn't look out of place at all. Physically, so impressive. On the ball, really, really composed. I just think, again, I don't want to keep banging the drum of, he's 21 years old in a new league, but I do think you have to reference that every time he does it. And so, really impressive. Martinelli had the work rate when he came on. Hincapié, good to see him on. You can see, he's an aggressive player. Physically, he's quick. I'm looking forward to seeing more of him, and perhaps we'll get to see a real showing of him against Brighton in midweek. Marino, he comes on, he does the job you want him to do. I think he's a leader. We saw a thing from The Athletic. I think he is one of the 5 sort of designated leaders in the dressing room, and also like it's another outlet. It's another player you can go long to. He'll hold the ball up well. And Miles Lewis-Skelly, who came on for Eze, and then he was on the left. It was a bit weird when he came on, trying to work out where he was playing, but did the job. And that was it. That was it. And you look at the table now. How good a weekend, how good a week it's been. Last weekend, this weekend, we're 4 points clear of Bournemouth in second. Spurs are up into third as it stands. They're currently winning 2-0. Sunderland in fourth. Man City fifth. United sixth and Liverpool seventh. But the big thing really, if we're to assume that City and Liverpool are still going to be the 2 that we're competing with this season, a 6-point gap to City, a 7-point gap to Liverpool. Those 2 play each other before the next international break whilst we play Sunderland and Burnley. And look, with Sunderland, that Sunderland away game is going to be tough, really tough. But we need to go there and win. We need to beat Burnley, stretch the lead even further if we can, and we'll be in a really, really good place to come back after that international break where it gets a bit tricky with Spurs and Chelsea games. In terms of City today, I didn't see their game, like I said, but I think people look at us and they say, oh, is it sustainable? You can't keep scoring from set pieces, even though we can. We could have easily made it 2-0 from another set piece today. But I look at City, where's the creativity for them? They created just over 1 XG today. Where's Erling Haaland? When Erling Haaland doesn't score, who's going to pop up with goals for them? Is that sustainable? So, yeah, good result for us. Burnley up next. I think who have City got up next? City have got Bournemouth. I mean, that's a top of the table clash for City in their next game. And Liverpool have got Villa, which is going to be a tough game for them. So, look, we're in a good place. We're in a really good place. Very, very happy with it. I appreciate you watching the video. I really do. Please do like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. The content on here at the moment, we're just in full swing. We're in absolute full swing. Brighton up next. Excited for that. We'll be back with the live stream tomorrow. But other than that, enjoy. Enjoy your Sunday evening. Enjoy being top of the table. Bask in it. Enjoy it. And hopefully this season we can finally get it done. We'll see. We'll see. But like I said, I'll be back tomorrow with a live stream. Until then, have a good one. I'll catch you on the next one. And until then, goodbye.